Welcome back to Sci-Fi Cross Sections, a weekly podcast dedicated to everything science fiction. It's me, your sci-fi boy, Colin Brandon, and joining me tonight is...
Mark Bodker.
Matt Bodker.
I am Ben Young.
I'm Bill Jarvis.
Andrew's back.
And tonight we are talking about the brand fucking new Christopher Nolan film, Tenet.
That's right, we lied last week.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't know it was coming out, did we?
Well, it snuck up on us. We actually got into an advanced screening because we're a very popular podcast.
Yeah, Chris called me. Chris called me and he's like, right, yeah, bruv, I need you to go see my movie and tell us what you think about it, dissect it, and do all the things that you say that you do about it. Right?
It's always playing in the background.
That would explain a lot.
So like, it is important to note that, like, it comes out tomorrow, September 3rd, when you're listening, if you're listening to this on the day of. So there's a ton of spoilers.
Oh, crap.
Ton of spoilers. We're not going to be kind. Anyways, let's get going. So Tenet, written and directed by Christopher Nolan, produced by Christopher Nolan and his wife, Emma Thomas.
Debbie Nolan was in that? Is Debbie Nolan joint? Debbie Nolan Thomas, that's her name.
It is.
Starring John David Washington, Robert Pattinson, Elizabeth Debicki, Dimple Kapadia. I'm sure that's not how you say her name. I'm just bad. Michael Caine, Kenneth Branagh, and, well, I guess that's it.
Mesh Patel had a bigger role than Michael Caine did.
Mesh Patel was pretty great.
Yeah.
I think it's pronounced cappuccino.
I don't think so. There's also Aaron Taylor, whatever his name is.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor Johnson, thank you. There it is. Which I didn't actually realize it was him until like the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was him until just now when you said it.
Yeah, that was him. I'm going to say this now. Music by Ludwig Göransson.
Isn't it Göransson?
I looked it up and there was a J in the phonetic spelling, so
interesting.
I'm going to go with Göransson, which I'm sure we're going to talk about him a lot tonight. Yeah, edited by Jennifer Lame. Is that the person who's responsible for all of the sound?
No.
No, that's the sound editor.
Yeah, that'd be sound.
Well, and then the loudness, it would be the sound mixer, but
That's
no
the
one
loud
directs
editor.
his mixers to do that, so.
Well, all right. So the budget was anywhere from 200 to 225 million, though they're projecting on top of marketing, it's probably closer to 300 million.
Jesus.
And it's also been speculated that they're going to need somewhere in the area of 400 million just to make their money back.
Oops.
So I don't know what that means. Yeah, I think
mean,
even
to be
with
fair,
coronavirus, even if coronavirus wasn't a thing, I think it would be a stretch on this one.
I mean, to be fair, it hasn't even released yet, and it's at 53.6 million.
Yeah, but it's been out in the rest of the world for, I think, a few weeks now.
It's been a few weeks? Damn. Okay. Shit. No, we're fucked.
Most
They're
of that
fucked.
money is for
Inception
the
made
rest of the world.
over 800 million in box office, so they could do it.
Well, that was Inception.
Yeah, that's also when people were naive to Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
They still are.
Yeah, I guess.
I have an interesting point about that, but I'll wait on it.
Somebody
Fair
should
enough.
say a synopsis about this movie.
All right, go.
Armed with only one word, Tenet, and fighting for the survival of the entire world, a protagonist journeys through a twilight world of international espionage on a mission that will unfold in something beyond real time. And I need to point out that protagonist is capitalized there. That's a very important part.
Well, yeah, because that's his name.
I didn't write this because I was looking up some inspiration on where to start. And I found this on IMDb that someone wrote, and I thought, I can't do any better than this. Like this synopsis is the biggest joke anyone could write. Like,
It is the perfect encapsulation of how obtuse this movie is.
it sucks. Oh, it sucked. Here we go.
Someone clapped in our theater.
A couple people did.
Yeah, I hate it when people do
People
that.
like this.
I don't know why people do that at all. But
It's a fucking movie. It's the actors can't hear you.
They want no one can. No one can hear the clapping. He's
bowing all the time.
Yeah. Someone comes up to Chris and they're like, somebody's clapping at your movie screening, and he's like, oh, okay, fine, I'll go.
So
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I just want to share.
How
go ahead.
fucked up would that be if that's always going on in Christopher Nolan's head? Whenever he's talking, whenever he's thinking, it's just like a wow.
You have to assume it is.
Yeah, bro, I'd like the chicken salad sandwich on rye bread, toasted.
maybe that's why whenever his like producers or any like people are giving him critiques on the movie, like I think the scene's great, but maybe if you change this little aspect about it, and he's just watching them like, and that's all he's hearing is wow. It's like every third word just gets totally cut out in his head.
I think the way that he does sound design and sound mixing is that they find an acceptable level, and then he's like, okay, but turn up the sound about 75%. So turn up the soundtrack by about 75%, and then literally don't listen to it again, and just send it to the theater.
Okay, so I've been seeing that trend in IMAX in general, though. Whenever I go, I'm like, it's just so fucking loud. Everything is so incredibly loud.
I am personally a fan of sound in IMAX. I think sound in IMAX is is the pretty much the only calling card to IMAX at this point. I think a lot of the film side of it can be done in a lot of other aspects better at this point too. Like if I want to see something on a big screen, I'll go to the music box and see it in 70 millimeter. I don't need to see it in IMAX. But I like, for example, Interstellar, I think uses sound really well in a loud way. I think it I remember when I saw Interstellar in IMAX, I was blown away because it's loud, of course, it's a Nolan movie, but it uses sound in a jarring way and then cuts back quickly in certain scenes to kind of give you that feeling of space. And that seemed to be the only case in which Nolan has ever used it to his advantage.
Yeah. Because he keeps trying to talk about how like that's what he wants is, what's the quote I pulled up here? I don't agree with the idea that you can only achieve clarity through dialogue. Clarity of story, clarity of emotions. I try to, it's like, and he goes on with that, but this movie had no clarity of dialogue, but it also had no clarity of story or clarity of emotions. So you were just confused when you were like, wait, what are they saying? What's happening? What's the plan?
I was talking to a friend of mine last night after I saw the movie because I posted my just hot take really quick on Facebook. And he messaged me. He said, hey, I trust your opinion, because he's a smart person. And he said, thank you for making me save time. And I said straight up, I'm like, you might enjoy it. You never know. And he goes, you know what, though? Who here is familiar with Frank Miller, the comic book writer?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He said, you know what?
Yeah.
I've always felt like Christopher Nolan is the Frank Miller of directors. People watch him when they're young. For many, he is their first exposure to cinema, if you will, quote unquote, like real film. And people are really into him. And then you grow up, you learn actual nuanced directors, actual directors that have things to say and can say them clearly. And you realize looking back on it that it was just nonsense from the get-go. And Frank Miller's always been the same way. Even now, as Frank Miller continues to write comic books, it's nonsense, nonstop. Like his latest, he wrote a Superman story where Superman joins the Navy when he turns 18. Like, it's just silly. And I think that's Nolan. Like, he continues to get sillier in an effort to try and prove that he isn't his old movies.
Well, I figured it out, and Christopher Nolan is actually the love child between Alex Garland and Michael Bay.
I mean, Alex Garland would be a love child of Nolan, wouldn't he?
It's a very tight-knit family.
Yeah, this movie proves that that's possible.
Well, I say that because Alex Garland does... So here's the thing, is Alex Garland does the weird batshit dialogue of like people just like talking bullshit science and going, it makes sense. Anyone who thinks otherwise is fucking stupid. That's how it works. Duh.
Don't try to understand it, they tell you.
Right. Yeah. And then, and then he also has that Michael Bay aspect where he just like films scenes because they don't actually serve his plot. They just look really cool.
Yeah, that was half the movie.
That's the Michael Bay aspect.
Honestly, like half the freaking movie was just a Michael Bay explosion in reverse.
Yeah. I mean, there were like I think the standout scene for me in the film was when the protagonist is taken into the back the kitchen of the restaurant, and that fight scene is the best scene in the whole movie because it's small and it uses its space well. And the fight tells a story. It tells us a bit about character work going on there. And that is the best scene in the whole movie. And that was within the point where I was still kind of enjoying myself. Like the first hour, I tried really hard to enjoy it. I was like, I don't want to be that person who just walks in and it's like, I hate this already. Because I've been talking shit about it since it came out, or since it was announced and since the trailer was released. And I didn't want to be that anymore. I was like, okay, I'm going to try really hard to like it. And like it, I did for about an hour. But then, like Colin said, they just never shut the hell up. It's just talking and talking and talking, and no one is actually saying anything. And it's like Nolan watched a Quentin Tarantino movie and was like, I like what he's doing here, and didn't understand what he was doing there. And so he just writes quippy dialogue and is like, oh, I'm the fucking protagonist. And then you realize, like, oh, that's his name? It's stupid. It's all stupid.
That's so funny. I like what this guy is doing here. And it's like, he doesn't know what's going on here. Like, let's just let him make his fun movies, guys.
Like, don't get me wrong, I like most of Christopher Nolan's work. I really do. But I think he is slowly digressing. Like, no, that's not the right word.
Spiraling?
Well, yeah. He's just getting worse, I think. Devolving, I guess. Yeah, we'll go with that. And it pains me to say that because I really enjoyed some of his earlier movies. Hell, I even liked Interstellar. This one was just not that good. Was I entertained? Yes. Was I confused most of the time? Yes. Did I understand what was going on at any point? Not really.
Honestly, it's really weird because I've been thinking about this, and it's not that it's not that the movie was very satisfying at all in any way. I thought it was cool. It looked cool. Whenever I had a moment where I was just like, wait, let me think about that. They were like, no, we're going to just keep going. And I'm like, wait. That doesn't make any sense because wouldn't she have the wound before she got shot and, whatever. Anyway, so that whole thing, it goes on and on and on. And it's like, I get confused and it's like, don't fucking think about it. Okay. Just go with it. Just go with it. That's the whole like premise for Christopher Nolan's, movies like Inception and this one, and even the time travel aspect of Interstellar, is you just go with it. Like, just go with it, and it'll be a plot device that you can use to do something good. But he had the plot device, but he didn't have the plot. So he had like this cool plot device, and he was like, "Oh, we could do something really, really big and cool with this." And then it was just like a very, very, very generic James Bond movie. Like, it was very, very generic James Bond movie. You have big bad with bomb, and you try to save the world from bomb. And that was it. And so it was like, and then there's all this international espionage going on, and he's the suave guy blending in with the party. I mean, Christopher Nolan literally said, "This is my James Bond."
It's sci-fi James Bond. I didn't even realize for a second. It really is.
That's what it is. And so when you come down to it, like, if you were to like straighten out all the timelines and make it super simple and straightforward, you would just be like, okay, like that's okay. Like bad guy has a bomb. You stopped him from blowing up the bomb. There we go.
Okay, guys. I just got a new theory off of what you were saying, Bill. What if he wrote a Bond movie and everybody laughed at it and he's like, "No, guys, you're reading it wrong. You're supposed to be reading it from the back forward." And then he just found a way to
from the back forward.
I'm glad you brought up Inception because I've talked a lot about my gripes with that movie. And I don't know when we'll ever do an Inception episode, if ever. So I really quickly just want to point out that it's the same shit in Inception, like you said, that pisses me off in this. And it's mainly, like, I think to, like, all the sleeping stuff and the jumps and how Nolan sets very specific rules for how it all works at the beginning of it. And then by the end of it, throws it away. He's like, and it's not an active decision to subvert what you expect. It's he wrote himself into a corner and now he's just going to toss out a rule so that he can get himself out of it. That's really what it comes down to. And that's the same thing here.
It was constant. Like that was constant. Yeah. Like if you build a fantasy world, if you build a sci-fi world that you have to really, really suspend your disbelief, at least function within your own universe. Mm-hmm. You know, when you start breaking your own rules and then it's like, well, you know, like the fire doesn't just go backwards, it actually absorbs heat and everything becomes cold. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why? Like, when... Anyway, sorry. I'm getting all worked up. I'm going to stop now. I'm just going to say that a lot of it was really fucking stupid. And you know what? I'm going to accept all of it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just accept all of that as plot device, even though sometimes there's some inconsistencies. And it still does not meet my standards.
It's a movie for
So it's like Christianity. Got it.
It's a movie for stupid people that think they're smart.
Right. But if someone like comes out of this and they were like, well, that's pretty straightforward, I pretty much understood the whole thing, and I'm just like, it was incomprehensible garbage, dude. Stop trying to pretend like you know shit.
And don't get me wrong, like, here's the thing. I know in the past I have been one to tell people they're wrong
or
for liking
future.
Something. And
no.
Here's the thing. It's not good, no matter what you can tell me. It's objectively bad. But if you like it, then you liked it. Great. I'm glad someone got enjoyment out of this.
I and don't get me wrong. I want to see it a second time so that I can see if like there was something I missed. You know, it's just like I just got to go. Yeah, exactly. I just have to sneak in. I'd have to pay like a nickel for fucking Shrek 2 or whatever, and then go see that.
Every time you say you're glad somebody is happy or likes something, I never believe you.
No, I'm serious. If someone finds enjoyment in something,
I feel like even when we walked on the movie yesterday, we all were kind of like, okay, I think some of that was pretty sloppy, but like that was fun to watch, right? And we were all like, yeah, it was fun to watch. I feel like all of you have forgotten that in the last 24 hours.
I literally said I enjoyed it.
No, I was gonna say. I mean, okay, so what I don't mean. Let me set it straight. So I was like really confused by a lot of inconsistencies. In the end, the plot wasn't that great, but throughout the entire movie, I was super engaged in trying to untangle the spaghetti.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Like I was super engaged. It had me like sucked in, but then at the very end, I was just like, oh, okay. And, you know, like, that's how I felt. I felt like it was a spectacle. Definitely a spectacle. Definitely something that was, like, cinematography, like, cinematography.
You're right the first time.
Okay. It definitely, you know, there's a lot of cool things going on, and you really want to dissect everything that you're seeing, which is visually very, very cool. And you're trying to figure out, and it's like a puzzle of trying to figure out what's going on backwards, forwards, which is cool. It's a cool little game to play throughout the movie, and I really enjoyed that part. I really thought it was like, okay, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with this. You know, I'm trying to do the math in my head, but at the end of the movie, you know, at the end of the day, the movie is supposed to be a film. It's supposed to be something with a plot and something that makes sense. And so the critic in me doesn't really like it, but like the little kid, if the little kid, 10-year-old Billy went and saw this, he would probably really, really, really enjoy it.
This would, first of all, I was just going to say that this would play a lot better as a 20-hour video game than as a 2.5-hour movie.
Oh, very much. This would be an awesome mechanic for a video game.
I think what you're looking for is called Control.
I do want to play it.
But the visual aspects.
I really want to play that.
Yeah,
but
me too.
Bill mentioned that his 10-year-old brain loved it, and I was like, the first thing I wrote down after walking out of the theater and sitting down in my car was, I imagine Christopher Nolan traveled back to the past to have his 10-year-old self write his idea of the perfect time travel movie, and that's what we got.
Yes, perfect.
That's it. It's like a 10-year-old explaining time, and he's just like, okay, so then what? Well, then they go into the one vault and they come out the other, but now they're traveling back in time. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Backwards.
So, did you guys read that apparently Nolan has been... This is like conceived of ideas that he's had for like 20 years, and it took him about 6 or 7 years to like get this out.
Didn't he say the same shit about Inception?
I mean, yeah, probably.
I hate that dude.
Damn.
I can't talk. I still haven't finished it.
I don't know. I agree with all of the complaints you guys have, but I think it didn't get in the way of my enjoyment of the film as much as it did with you guys, it seems like.
Unpack that.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mark. I liked the movie. I mean, the time travel mechanics and the sci-fi was egregious, but I was on the hook the whole time, pretty much. Yeah,
I enjoyed it, and I also wish the sound had been balanced a little better.
Oh God, it was the loudest movie I've ever heard in my entire life.
Oh, if I could watch this movie with subtitles, I would enjoy it immensely. I think
that was within like 5 minutes. I was like, God, I wish I had subtitles. Oh my God, I wish I had subtitles. But I do kind of get a bit of the point of that quote that Matt was reading earlier about the dialogue. In particular, the scene that sticks out to me is the interrogation scene where he's got tall, pretty lady, Cat. He's got Cat at gunpoint, and there's the dialogue going forwards and backwards at the same time over the speaker. And at the time, I was like, there's so many cuts, and there's so much audio, and they're talking over each other, and it's different people talking over themselves. But there was a lot of like movement and emotion going on at the same time, so you almost understood everything that was going on, and the situation itself was simple enough that you knew what was going on. And I was frustrated not being able to hear clearly, but at the same time it was an interesting way to do the scene, and it wrapped up a couple minutes later in a nice way because of that chaos, if that makes sense. It made for, I think, a interesting payoff. I don't know if it would forgive my frustration in that moment necessarily, which I think is a good general quote for how that movie was for me. That I think the overall payoff was worth the frustration in the moments. In those moments, it wasn't, but in the end, I was like, okay, the way that panned out because of the weird chaos in some of the moments, the payoff they had for that chaos, because it kind of unfolded as they did weird time travel shit, was worth it for me in the long run. If that makes sense.
I get it and I respect it, but actually the entire final sequence is what lost me, and is what was like the nail in the coffin. They lost me around, I don't know, probably around the time he met the Russian dude, met Kenneth Branagh. But what finally was the nail in the coffin was the whole sequence at the end with the temporal pincer. I can't even say it with a straight face. I don't know how the actors did. And they were getting paid none of it made sense
to say it.
Huh?
They were getting paid millions of dollars to say it with a straight face.
Well,
but
that makes
remember,
sense, yeah.
and also remember the big important key of it all, that John David Washington said in an interview that he didn't understand the movie and still doesn't totally understand the movie. So that's a big thing. I was confused, especially when it came down to the end, and the protagonist noticed definitely he notices Neil's a body on the ground in the little bunker area, and it's got like little chains on it, and I just assumed that was Neil. I was just like, oh, that's Neil. That's just him. He died, and we're about to see his death come in a minute. But then they try to pull it off as a twist that it's Neil, and I'm like, you guys telegraphed that pretty wildly. I don't know why you're trying to get me with that. It is what it is. The other thing was, like I mentioned, John David Washington, he didn't seem to understand anything. He delivered lines weirdly throughout the whole thing. Every once in a while, he would just kind of bounce a line back to whoever he's playing off of in the scene, which I assume is due to poor pacing and poor direction in the scene. He'll like, someone will say something, and instead of actually replying to it, he'll just bounce the line back because it's his turn to say the line. And it doesn't feel real. It just feels strange. And I found myself laughing at a lot of his delivery throughout it. Mark could tell you, I laughed at quite a few of his lines in the movie. And just, and little things like that just pile up one after another until the end, where I said it was fun. Yeah, sure, I said it was fun. But like Bill said, in an engaging sort of way, where at least my mind had something to do throughout the slog. Like, it still was just, it's still, especially after I've had 24 hours to digest it, the more I think about it, the angrier I get that it's just that this dude was allowed to make this without a script editor. No, he probably had a script editor and they didn't understand it either.
I think I don't know. I think there could have been more clarity. They needed breathing room, and you never got it. And I think that in that moment where, because we keep joking about the if you keep thinking about it, like you can't keep thinking about it, you just need to go. And that, I mean, they said that so late in the movie, I don't think it was intended to be like a talking to the audience kind of thing. I really do think that was in the moment. The combat was so chaotic. I mean, combat in general would already be so like just pure chaos. But then to be trying to dissect it mentally while you're also fighting a battle, I really do think that was in the moment, like, dialogue thing, which I thought was was interesting.
15 minutes into the movie.
Did they?
Don't think about it. Yeah, you can't understand it. It's when she's explaining the whole inverse time theory. All that stuff with all the items. The scientists played by, I don't know the actress's name, all I know her as is Chloe from In Bruges. And
Fiona, was that?
Probably Wigwugga.
Because that's her best role she's ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And
she's Clemens Posey.
Yeah, and she says to him, don't I forget whatever we said earlier. Don't try to understand it. Blah blah blah.
She said, "Just go by instinct."
That's
basically.
right. Thank you.
Just do it. Time will sort it all out.
But let me see here.
I thought the combat, the visual, like, as you said, that was that part more than any other part in the movie experience was kind of breathtaking in a way. The way that things, I mean, combat already, there's explosions and there's a lot of noise and chaos, but seeing visually them tie together the two frames of people moving in two different directions was something else to see.
You see, it was gorgeous, but my issue with it is they didn't use it.
Yes.
It didn't feel like blue team was helping red team. Like, the people going backwards in time you didn't visually see them helping. Like, they kind of briefly explained it before the fight, but you didn't really get an idea of that happening. Like,
They did it a couple times.
The one time I remember them doing it, which was the coolest part of the whole sequence, was when they blew up the building at the same time, going in different. So it's always destroyed. Cool. That was neat. Other than that, I don't remember them ever helping them. In fact, wasn't Blue Team supposed to be the ones to disarm the bomb?
Yeah.
Red was supposed to fail, and Blue was supposed to succeed. So, and for no reason whatsoever, that plan changes because the protagonist is on the red side.
No, they were sealing it if the gray team couldn't take care of it in time. They were sealing it in, right, weren't they?
No, I remember very clearly. Ives says that red team. The goal is that red team is going to fail, and that's the distraction that allows blue team to get in and disarm. That's the whole temporal pincer concept.
But then
they already knew that was going to happen before red team started. Right?
God, dude, fuck.
So before red team even took off, they already knew what was going to happen.
Right, because of the information they got from blue team.
Which means blue team had to have succeeded for red team to know that they were going to succeed. Therefore, red team had to be the distraction.
They just had to go through the motions. And they already knew that because blue team told them that they were going to do that. But they didn't. They already knew that they were going to fail.
So I want to chomp on this more, but first, can we break down the myth, right? The mythology of it. Can we figure it out? How the theory that naloN presents works. So he hinges a lot on the grandfather paradox.
Exactly, which means that whatever happens has happened. Because it always has happened and always will happen. That's what his idea is. So instead of inverse is instead of cause and effect, the effect happens before the cause. So if somebody gets hit by a car, they flip in the air and then get hit by a car. So the cause is the car, the effect is them flipping in the air. They flip in the air first and then they get hit by a car.
And so you have two timelines running in different directions. You have the timeline in which we assume we're currently in, which is moving forward in time. And along the way, there is also an inverse timeline going back. At one point, they say that the future knows that the inverse timeline is stronger than the forward timeline. Was that correct? Was that what I was getting?
I think they were saying it's the other way. It's the regular timeline is stronger, which is why time flows naturally in that direction.
Got it.
And that's why things like the explosion happened in regular time and not in inverse time.
And when the protagonist and Neo were running around in the inverse timeline, are people just seeing other people walking backwards all over the place?
Yeah, that's was really rough for me. Like,
hey,
all those memes I kept posting in the Facebook chat where like firemen are like putting people back into burning buildings and stuff like that. That's all I could think of was like,
I'm gonna do you one better. When they're traveling to, I presume was somewhere in Russia, right, for that last final confrontation?
Yeah, it was back in Caesar's old town.
So when they're traveling by ship, all the people that are working out and training on the deck are doing so in reverse, which can your muscles get stronger if you're working them out in reverse? Furthermore, when they're inside a plastic bubble, they are not trapped. Hang on a minute.
That was just the oxygen.
Oh,
the plastic bubble was just
oxygen.
oxygen because they can't breathe forward moving oxygen.
Got it, but they can work their muscles out in reverse time.
Because their lung membrane would have to cause something to happen, but the effect happens.
And when When the protagonist goes back in time a week and he goes through the vault, he comes out and he's wearing his mask of reverse oxygen, sprinting down a hall. Should he not be suffocating?
No. It got reversed. It got reversed. Yeah, oxygen got reversed.
Okay, the oxygen flipped with him.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So that
all right. I retract my baffled laugh.
Okay. I have a couple of questions.
Yeah,
for this.
please.
Okay, so in that town that our villain was in during like the fall of the Soviet Union or whatever,
something 12.
Is the nuke in the town sent back from the future, or was that just something that happened?
It wasn't.
My assumption was that it was something that was detonated backwards and reassembled as a plutonium bomb or something like that. I don't know.
It wasn't a nuke. It was a time capsule with gold bars. They were told it was a nuke, right?
I don't know.
They were told it's plutonium, but it ended up. He found it and it had his name in it.
Right.
Because potentially in the future he knew that it wasn't like the nuke wasn't going to go off, or it was like a dud, or it just wasn't there at all. So he put a time capsule there going in reverse, or...
Yeah, that makes sense.
Too much reverse money.
Oh.
Okay, so I took some notes while we were talking. So I think the whole movie itself is a spoiler. Because the entire movie is itself in the spoiler because it happens, right? Like if both timelines were eliminated, nothing would have ever happened. So the fact that the movie happens is a spoiler in itself. You're just trying to figure out how they figured out the problem. And then I don't
know about that.
Why? But it would have been, the timeline wouldn't exist.
Well, they have a discussion actually about this exact thing at one point between protagonist and Neil, where he's saying that all of the things being theoretical, essentially, only really knowing to go forward until they can take care of a situation or find out what happens, whether it's a parallel universe thing or the situations will fold back effects on each other.
Well, I think what they mean to say is that they have to make sure that what happens because that's what's happened. They have to make sure that it happens because it has happened, and that's what they did to make it happen. I think that is the point. Is that So I have to do it. Like I know that this is going to succeed because of the effort I'm going to put in, but that doesn't mean that I don't have to put in that effort.
Right. I did gather that was kind of the thesis of the movie. Like it was basically saying that even if destiny is a thing, even if fate is a thing, that's not an excuse to not take action, is the point. Even if you're doomed, you should still do something.
Right.
Which I respect that. I respect that idea.
So okay, and then another point is when he gets in that car, that's a regular forward moving car, and he's in reverse, so the car would have driven backwards from our perspective, but from his perspective it would have moved forward, so he would have had to shift it into reverse to go forward because it had already arrived at its destination, but for his perspective it was just beginning. So it had already backed into its destination, and now it had already reversed all the way, and now he's the effect that causes it to go into reverse. Anyway. So he would have shifted it into a reverse for him to go forwards.
That doesn't make any sense.
So, okay, just imagine it's just the forward timeline, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
We saw the car in the forward timeline.
Right, exactly. And the car itself was in reverse. Mm-hmm. It is not an inverted car. It was driving in reverse. But to him, he wouldn't have shifted it into drive when he got in the car. He would have shifted it into a reverse. That's all I'm asking. Would he have thrown it into reverse when he went forward?
I think by naloN's rules he should have, but I don't believe he did.
Probably not. But yeah, no. So there's that.
You know, I wonder because he was inversed, but the car wasn't.
That's the point.
So he had to throw it into drive, but to him it would have seemed like it was going in reverse.
Well, the car.
Yeah, Robert. That's what Robert Pattinson was saying when he was when they were in the bubble room. Was that like the car's handling is going to be really weird because it's going to like act as if it's going in reverse, but it's actually going. So yeah.
All right. So it itself, that object is not inverted, right? So we accept that. So putting it in drive would have driven it. Anyway, putting it in reverse would have made more sense, right? That makes sense.
No, you're right. You're right.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
Because wait, I'm trying to remember now if he pulls out forward or if he does back out of the space.
No,
Right.
he pulls forward.
He pulls forward.
He pulls forward, so it was in reverse the whole time.
The question all comes down to is how did the car get there in the first place? That's the big question.
In forward timeline, it reversed into the space that it ended up in. And then when we reversed the entire thing, that's what I mean. That's what I mean is that like it reversed. It was in reverse the whole time.
But why was it there?
Because it was
somebody undrove it there.
Andre and everyone else was gone.
So it was flipped. It was flipped on the highway.
Yeah, that's the first time he saw the car, that it was already flipped on the
It was a
highway.
flipped car, and then it randomly. But then that means it's inverted. So
Yeah,
how
the car had to have been inverted to have done that.
Boys.
Here's-
Jesus
It had to
fucking
have been
Christ.
inverted.
Here's the
it
thing.
had to have been placed there. You're right.
And I need to make this clear to any listeners who are like looking for things to pick apart with whatever we critique here.
We've already been to the future and seen your criticisms.
That and also
And y'all suck.
like we're not confused. We get what happened. We are the confusion comes from the baffling amount of plot holes and the fact that this still has an 84 on Rotten Tomatoes. That's where the confusion lies. That's all.
Okay, wait. I want to say something though.
Go ahead.
There was a point where I think it was when they were in the shipping container. Kat they were trying to heal her. She was unconscious, and Neil and the protagonist are talking. And I kind of hit Ben in the arm, and he gave me a look, and I was like, "Is Neil her son?" And Ben just looked at me, was like, put his head in his hands, but probably shook his head. Looking at IMDb. It doesn't seem to be that because the kid actor is credited as a character named Max.
Yeah, no, she definitely calls him Max in the movie. But I assumed by what you meant is that Neil just changed his name so that his mom didn't know it was him.
Could be, yeah.
Which is still entirely possible off book. Like, it might
they were
be
both
something.
British, weren't they?
Yeah, and as we all know, most British people are just grown-up versions of themselves.
Related, yeah.
Damn it! There goes our British audience.
Right, Mom. I mean, what was your name again, Kat? You've got to go back in time, right?
But that would mean that Max would have had to be inverted when he was like 14 years old, gone back in time.
Can we stop saying inverted? Because every time I think of it, I think of Top Gun.
For the record, to our
When
listeners,
Maverick was inverted.
I gotta still see that. I haven't seen that.
Oh, yeah.
We have the Steel Book Collector's Edition. We also have the soundtrack on vinyl here. So,
But do you have
Kenny
the
Loggins
NES game?
I just wanted to point out really quick also for anyone who hasn't seen the movie and it's just like, fuck it, I don't care, because I know we do have listeners like that. Like, when we say inverted, to clarify, there are objects that were doused with inverted radiation that were sent back through the timeline and somehow can be manipulated by people moving forward in the timeline as if they were things that were always in that and going to end up in that spot and then make their journey to a spot where they could be inverted and then make their way back to a spot where John David Washington can shoot it into his gun.
It sounds to his gun.
It sounds confusing, but it's really just annoying.
It's really just stupid.
So can we talk about the bullet? The cat got shot with the bullet, right?
Yeah.
What the fuck happened there?
For some reason,
the bullet got shot by Cat, actually.
That is true.
Okay, good point.
Is true.
With her body, she shot it out of her wounds. No, but like seriously, if she were harmed by something, the wound would have appeared over time before she actually got it, right?
Right. But it never did.
So that's something that he broke his own rule there. Okay, whatever. Let's just call that a broken rule. But why do they call it algorithm? Why do they call it algorithms?
Because it sounds really smart.
Something about the far future where the past destroys the future, and then they want to destroy the past for it, right?
But algorithm is just a set of instructions.
The future past.
Yeah, but Bill.
That was what
Christopher Nolan is operating under the assumption that most people watching this movie are stupid, and he's not wrong in that regard.
This isn't a movie for us at the end of the day.
It blew my mind because I was just like thinking the entire time. I was like, okay, so there's this secret code or secret instructions that are being hidden, and it was just some hunks of metal, and I was like, you mean algorithm like there are a set of instructions that are going to come to pass? And maybe there was no clarification because the future used the term algorithm for a machine that nobody understands now.
Maybe the future inverted someone to go back in time and erase the word computer.
Ooh. Okay. They never said computer the entire movie. That's a good point.
Okay, really, the way I took it was this whole thing was put together by this dramatic Russian guy. So chances are those were just a bunch of like flash drives with a piece of the code
for Tetris,
like the actual the algorithm, the math problem that does this. And they're just dramatically in these hunks of metal. That was kind of what I was picturing the whole time.
Oh god, see, but
hang on, Colin wanted to say something.
Oh my god.
I don't even know what I was going to say. I was trying to come up with a better tagline for this movie, like time has a back door. You just have to walk through it backwards.
But math equations don't do anything. I'm still trying to figure out what's the big bomb thing that happens.
It's not like that's
forward time.
Well, keep in mind, the bomb was detonating the algorithm because the bomb still goes off. It's the algorithm they get their hands on, which is real in 9 parts. Whatever the algorithm is, just ignore the fact that an algorithm is an algorithm.
Right,
guys,
you don't have to understand
words.
it.
Words don't mean anything anymore.
Guys, does binary code in reverse still say the same thing?
No, it doesn't.
No.
My
mouse
is the name of a snake.
Why would you even say that?
What was that, Mark?
Unless the algorithm is a binary palindrome.
Oh my god!
I said my mouse is named after a snake. That doesn't mean it's a snake.
Did you guys know that binary palindrome is itself a palindrome? Don't think about it. Keep moving on.
Wow, thanks, Christopher Nolan. Don't think about it.
Don't think about it. Keep going.
I had a moment. Okay, wait. I had a moment later when they talked about sending pieces of material into the past. Before they ever encountered one of the machines that flipped someone into reverse existence, where I got really excited thinking that they were implying all those pieces that were in the lab that they had collected were pieces of the machine that they were sending back piece by piece. I got really excited for a second, and then that was not at all what was going on. But I thought that would have been a cool concept, like, oh, the bomb is actually all of those pieces that they were finding that were sent back.
That would have been cooler, but that seems like that's a lot of this movie too, right? Like it's just like whether you like it or not. Don't get me wrong. Like whether you like it or not, it feels like there's just a lot in this movie where it's just like, well, that could have been cooler. Mm-hmm. Well, that could have been cooler. Everything except that one time the protagonist rubbed a cheese grater across a dude's face. Because that was as cool as possible.
You're not kidding. That scene was the best scene in the movie. That was
so fucking cool.
The first hour was really
That was a very Bond level fight. Like that
was... Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, that was so good. I have one little thing that I wanted to say that was just inspired by what Mark said. So when there was a shell that went off, when it exploded, right? But it was one of the inverted shells. It came together and went, like there was an explosion, and went, and then the shell rose from the ground backwards, right?
Right.
So just imagine a nuke went off, right, at some point in the future, but it was an inverted nuke, right? So the pieces would have already scattered, and as the explosion came nearer and nearer, they would fly to the epicenter of the explosion, right? Like if that were a thing, if like those things were like charred pieces of a bomb, they would eventually.
What makes it even more devastating is that like at the epicenter of a nuke is that everything would be disintegrated. It would have been turned to dust. So it's literally like matter would be constructed out of the air.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Exactly. Well, so if I think about it. Let's say there was a giant nuke that went off in the future. This is just a cool thought experiment. I just like playing with this. So if there's a giant bomb that went off in the future and blew up an entire city, and that city basically got disintegrated, and all of the pieces of the city were all around the planet, then yeah, you're right, because it would have, if you were to reverse it, it would all come together and then form a city. You're right. Yeah, that was so cool.
That'd be a much better way to end the world.
Wait a second. So cool. I think I get it. Hold on. I think I'm figuring it out. All right. So at the very end, when the wife goes back onto the boat to kill the Russian guy, was that a different Russian guy, or was it the same? Was it the same one from the past, or was it the future one coming back to meet himself in the past so that he could touch himself, thereby ending the universe?
It's the same one that shot her in inverse in front of the protagonist.
So there would be two guys on the boat, and so she always had killed him, and obviously she was always the woman jumping off of the boat that the other lady saw. So okay. All right, I get it now. All right, movie makes sense. Good movie.
Oh, fuck, because he left on a helicopter, and then the other helicopter showed up.
Yeah. So
it was all... Now.
He showed up to relive that holiday.
All right.
Yeah, that was very clear.
No, it wasn't.
Dude, I was so checked out at the end of that movie. Anyways, boys,
well, at that point,
we got to move on. And no. I'm sorry.
No, yeah.
I think we got to get good sci-fi, bad sci-fi in here.
Oh, can I give one more critique? It's really important. I'll give it in my good sci-fi, bad. I'll give it in my good sci-fi, bad sci-fi. That's okay.
Okay. Yeah, put your final thoughts in your good sci-fi, bad sci-fi, boys. Mark, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, man. Oh, shit.
Oh, no. Mark didn't know that he's always the first one to go.
He used to jump around. It's okay.
House of Pain.
Jump up to get down?
I still will say I really had a good time watching the movie overall. I think it's worth watching. If nothing else, visually, it's really, really entertaining. And I know people talked about it being, a Michael Bay sci-fi, but I think it takes a step up visually beyond being just explosions. I don't know. There's the way that time, like cinematography wise, the way that time moving forward and backwards interacts is seamless. Like I never had a point in the movie where I was like, that doesn't look right, or that looks green screened. They did an outstanding job of combining visuals in those scenes. So if literally nothing else, it was visually worth watching. But I had a good time otherwise. And the fact that we're talking about it so much is fun. it's worth the money just for how much we're talking about it and how much fun we're having dissecting it. So I 100% would recommend anyone to see it. Yeah, that's it.
We're gonna need you to use an adjective.
Good or bad?
Sci-fi.
And or sci-fi.
I would call it. I would call it cheap sci-fi.
Interesting.
I don't know if I'd say. I don't want to say good, but I also don't want to say bad.
So you're a coward.
Yeah, sure.
Make Tenet 2, you cowards.
Thank you, Mark.
I'm gonna show you how a brave man forms his opinion.
Aftermath.
Yeah. All right.
Aftermath.
Matt, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to agree with Mark. Visually, this movie was gorgeous. And I wish the story would hold up to the premise as well as the visuals did. It falls apart, and there's so many things that are just weird about it. Like when she's first explaining how the inverse bullets work, that means they found a slab of material that just had these bullets in it, and they're like, oh, these are inverse bullets. Okay, we're just going to hang them up on the wall for this type of explanation.
Right.
That's so lame.
God,
There was
you're
probably a
right.
hunk of the wall from the wreckage that like big fight was at the end.
But for that to make sense, those bullets would have had to been fired from that gun, right? Or I guess not that gun in particular, just the same
Maybe the
type
gun
of
was
ammunition.
inverse too.
But wait, no.
They found they were talking about finding a bunch of wreckage from like a war or like a conflict that never happened yet.
No, that's true. Well, okay, that's a little
And
bit
they like
cooler, but
they
still.
found
I
like a
don't remember
bunch
that
of
ever.
stuff, like not just slabs of wall, but they had all those like
I don't think
pieces
that
of
ever
machine and the gun. They probably found
Pretty
a bunch
sure
of
they never
inverse
said that.
guns.
But also, he never actually dropped that bullet. He was able to pull it back into his hand, but he never dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
That-
because there were no rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
He just undropped the bullet.
Yeah, guys, he just undropped
Haven't you
it.
ever
That's all.
undropped something, Mark?
So
I'm about
yes,
to
not you
undrop
ever-
a whooping
But-
on your ass.
I have a question. I do. Wait, okay.
We knew
Wow,
this was
I-
probably going to be a
I
long
know,
one.
I know.
I'm throwing my voice here. This is.
It is true. Matt's got to finish his final thoughts.
Write it down. Write it down, Mark. No, seriously.
Write it
I'm
down,
serious.
mail it
Write
to
it
your
down,
future
please.
self, and if you still remember it in the past, then it doesn't matter in the future.
Please write it down. I'm watching you.
Okay. So the story just has a lot of rough points and does not hold up as well as it does visually. The dialogue falls prey to the same bullshit that the story does, where it's just weird and vague because they barely know what's going on. And for that reason, the movies are a lot of fun to watch, and I agree that it's a shit ton of fun to joke about it and poke holes in the inverse theory kind of stuff. So I think the movie was fun, but I think it was bad sci-fi. I think they pretty much just... I'm not kidding when I say it feels like he wrote a Bond movie that was terrible, and then he tried to save it by throwing in like tachyons.
Classic.
Inverse radiation.
Yeah, he actually reversed the polarity.
Yeah.
It felt like the cheapest sci-fi tack on. Like, it was such a cool concept, and the first half of the movie I was really into it, but very much like the premise of this movie, I like reversed all of my enjoyment out the second half of the movie.
You should be a movie critic and write critic. You should write reviews. Much like this film.
All right. Ben Young.
I would like to yield part of my time to find out what Mark's question was, because I'm curious.
All right, Invisible Mark.
He just got up and walked away?
Would you eat
He
the
actually
moon
walked
if it were
away
made of
after
cheese?
he walked away right after
All right.
I had to
then
go back to it. So you can say yours, and then we'll just give a
Never
moment of
mind,
pause
I
when he
guess.
comes back from the bathroom.
Yeah, he's
Um,
yeah.
Here's the thing. It is really terrible sci-fi. It's a fine, enjoyable romp through a madman's brain. But never once throughout this movie did I think it earned the title sci-fi, and we've given the title of sci-fi for much, much less than what this movie tried to do. And the reason for it being that none of it was actually science, it was just science words mixed into something that he needed to make work for his plot. If you want to walk around acting like you understand, quote unquote, the movie and that you think it's great or whatever, you know, that's fine. You understand what Nolan was getting at. We all do. But you need to understand that there's more to sci-fi than just adding the word inverse in front of things and tossing the word algorithm around. It needs to have meaning. It needs to have substance in the actual genre, or else what's the point? Bad sci-fi, kind of fun movie. It's some pretty big booms and some cool fight scenes. So,
big bada boom.
All right. Thank you, Ben.
Can I take that yield of time now?
What was it?
Yep, go ahead.
When after the interrogation scene where Cat gets in unshot, when he's going to go through let's just call it a time machine. When he's going to go through the time machine,
they called it a turnstile.
Turnstile? Time turnstile. I actually like that.
What's the question, Mark?
Okay. It was fun. Aaron Taylor Thomas's character says something about you have to look at yourself or it didn't happen or some such thing. Why though? But why though?
Because
it was you always look to make sure you're leaving.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Because the idea is if you go in but you don't come out, you'd be able to tell before you went in.
And that means something went wrong, so you wouldn't want to get in there.
It was just like hey, I've done this before. Always make sure you get out okay. I think that was more what it was.
But the paradox at the same time is that what has already happened no matter what.
So if you don't get out, then you should still walk in there to die.
Well, no, you would have already not gone in. You would have already known to not gone in.
Oh, sorry, I keep talking.
You're good.
SpaghettiOs.
Yeah, he's not gonna. Is it SpaghettiOs time?
SpaghettiOs time.
No. Just the idea is just do what you're gonna do anyway because it already happened, or it's already going to happen in the future.
But then why did he bother telling him to make sure you do it?
Probably
just change it.
Trying to establish rules that don't actually exist, maybe.
That and I will give Nolan this for the same reason that they tell them that even though you know it's going to happen, you should still act. The idea of action in the face of fate kind of idea.
Yeah. Robert Pattinson's character knew he was going to die after he had to go back into the past, forward, future to die again in the past and stop the guy from whatever the fuck that he was doing. I don't remember the movie.
Twilight. I think it's Twilight.
Right. Yeah. So the vampires came and played football.
Oh, I'm adding High Life to the list.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Moving on to Bill Jarvis. Slap it on.
Okay. So sounds good. I'm just gonna yield a little bit of my time to say. Okay.
By the way, anytime you yield on this cast, I'm taking away on the next episode. So
sounds good.
Deal with it.
Okay, the next episode. Sorry. Continue.
That's fine. So anyway, the whatever happens has happened, and whatever the best decision was the best decision. So that's why Neil did what he did, because he knew that in order to save the world, because they already said you have to kill yourself. You just choose when you do it. So, you know, that's when Neil decided to kill himself. But I'd say it's bad sci-fi and it was fun. So, you know, hey, go have fun. Go see the movie and have some fun. You know, it's COVID. So wear a mask and go have some fun, okay?
All right. Thank you, Bill. Andrew.
Could I yield some of my time to ask what the fuck you meant by slap it on?
Let me try something different this time. Andrew, spread it on.
All right, I liked that one less.
Maybe you would.
Andrew, slather it on.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty much in the camp of the Mark where and Bill apparently, where it's a fun movie. It's like dumb as fucking hell, and a lot of things happen, but I enjoyed it. I would love to see the hour and 45-minute cut where they don't have any mention of time traveling at all and watch a super generic James Bond movie. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I liked it. Pretty egregious sci-fi, but I had a good time watching the movie.
All right, there you go. I'm just gonna say this wasn't good sci-fi. It was ambitious, poorly executed. I don't think there was any real, cautionary tale here, other than don't let rich people figure out time travel. Aside from that,
how do you think they got?
I don't know.
rich?
I enjoyed it. I had fun for pretty much most of the movie, and I will always maintain it's okay to like a bad movie. It's fine. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Yeah, I think that's it, guys. So there you have it. That is our take on the new Christopher Nolan movie, Tenet. Go out there and see it safely, and if you can't, I guess just wait for it to show up on some sort of inconvenient streaming service that you have to pay more money for. What are we doing next week, Ben?
I think we should just stop saying, because things keep changing. Tentatively signs.
Probably something about the time stream.
It's
Tenet next week, right?
Signs was pushed back to next week, tentatively, unless something else is coming out.
Ha ha ha.
Ha!
I'm laughing.
But like, there's also that awful looking Ridley Scott series we got to cover. There's like,
did you just laugh in the Predator theme?
Yes, I did.
What's that called?
That's
Wolf
not
at the
Predator.
Moon?
It's Terminator.
Oh shit! Yeah.
They both have Arnold. They both have Robert Pattinson.
Guys, I want to go to bed. I have to get up at 5:30. We're done.
This film insists upon itself. It insists upon itself. Okay.
Until next time.
Here, we no. There with this on in the earth, no there with this telling me her second fish the pot system of give number of behind me there. He there's lots nurse me. My girl, they go us. I'm serving the sake, Dr. Neither's net. How I gonna go? My,